Well, here we are. Dr. Dan Miller, Historical Solutions LLC. Welcome. Thank you for taking just a few minutes of your time today. I feel like I ought to have suntan lotion on or something like that. It is the sound of thaw is upon us, at least for a while. What a great sound, the sound of thaw. I never really realized how great a sound that was until just a couple of days ago. So it's the NFL and America 250. This is our final episode for this current football season, pro football season. And I thought we should wrap it up, and we should wrap it up with this final episode. So the Super Bowl marks the end. As the time of this podcast, that was 2 days ago, Sunday night. I'm doing this on Tuesday afternoon. Thinking about what's the theme for this final episode. I mean, we could do a few things, right? We could do Seattle Seahawks as a team. We could do the Seattle defense as a just almost unparalleled unit in the league and in the sport. Just amazing. We could do Sam Darnold, the quarterback, and have a very meaningful conversation about his journey. That seems to be the word now that we always have to use, and rightfully so. His journey to being where he is at this point, which is great, and congratulations. We could do a theme about the two head coaches, Mike Vrabel of the Patriots, Mike McDonald of the Seahawks. Kind of the faces of, or some of the faces of a new generation of coaches. The first time each had been there as a coach. So any of those would be worthwhile. But I want to remember our construct, and the construct that led to this series, which for this season, as I said, wraps up today. The construct was George Washington is the head coach of the Continental Football Team. He and the team report to or play for a front office, a management and administration level of the organization that in their case exists in Philadelphia in the form of the Second Continental Congress. They're all subsumed by the ownership structure of it, which resembles the Green Bay Packers in actual terms, in modern terms, in that they're owned community-wide, spread across a vast expanse of land by the people who choose to support them. They are really the owners, the community owners up and down the Atlantic Seacoast, those people who believe in and support the cause of the American Union. So that's our construct, and so it's the construct that I'm trying to stick with. And it's the construct that I have always felt worked really well in this kind of comparison. So the construct takes us to the one great big game that wraps up the season. Every team plays for the chance to go to the Super Bowl and the opportunity to win the Super Bowl title. Every team plays for the hope of winning that last one great big, in this case, championship game. So the Seattle Seahawks are the Super Bowl champions of the 2025-2026 NFL season. So that's the thing for today, the one big game, the concluding one big game. George Washington doesn't have the kind of clarity that they do in Seattle, knowing that they've won the one big game. He doesn't have something that's at the end of a clear progression from week 1 to week 19 or whatever it is, like the NFL has, like the Seattle Seahawks have. His one big game is simply success. How will we know when we've won that one big game, when we've won the Super Bowl? How will we know? Well, when the enemy goes home, when the enemy gives up, the British Redcoats, when they give up, that will in fact be the one big final game. The question becomes, what does that look like? What do we have to have be true for us to get to that point of knowing that we are on the verge of the one big final game? You know, we've talked before, if you've hung with me, Washington is, and his Continentals, in their opening game, they're surrounding the British. They've got them pinned up and holed up inside of Boston, and they're kind of at a standoff. They're in a siege, and it's been true since the summer of 1775, and here we are now in early February of 1776. So, in a sense, there are people who might believe that the one big game is the one right in front of them. That if we just do this, that we really will take a giant step closer to that championship, that ultimate victory that we're looking for. So Washington has been very aware on the X's and O's part of his coaching. He's very aware as a scheme guy. I've got to have an artillery. I've got to have the proper cannon power to blast them in a siege, since we have them surrounded. I don't have that, and I'm trying to make sure that I do get it. And in fact, his one of his most valuable core team members, Henry Knox, has just brought 60 tons worth of artillery and artillery supplies from northern New York to the Continental Army camp outside of Boston. So it looks like that's what we need. And Washington has always said that. He believes it. He believes it now in early February. But there's something else that's true. And he only tells a few people this on the planet Earth at this point. He says to John Hancock, part of the management back in Philly, part of the front office, he tells Hancock in a secret letter that I basically have had to lie. By the way, he's told an assistant of that is Joseph Reed. I've had to lie. I've had to lie to my core team and keep the truth from them about how weak we really are. We're under everything, undermanned, underpowered, undersupplied, under-equipped, all of it. We're under everything. We don't have enough to shove anybody out of anywhere. Yeah, I got the artillery, and I wasn't lying to people. I mean, we do need that. We can't do anything without that artillery that Knox just brought miraculously to us. But as he looks at the returns, they call them returns, from the various units. How many men are fit and ready? How many men do you have in your unit? How many men are ready to go? I mean, they're coming back just ridiculously understrengthed. They can't recruit. As I've told you before, they're less than half of their recruiting numbers have been met. So he tells Hancock and his private secretary Reed, I can't be honest. I cannot let everybody know how bad it is. I have to essentially lie. So that's where he is. So the one big game, he's not near it. He's not near it. And so that's the thing I want you to think about, is Washington knows. Waves a wand and gets all the things he wants in terms of manpower and supplies and everything. Even if he waves the wand, we win. And by the way, they're going to win in just a few weeks in early March. They'll end up getting the cannon scattered around, and they'll have enough to fire on the British. The British are going to evacuate. But there's our word. They don't surrender. That's going to have to be the word that gets them to their one big win. They're going to have surrenders. And evacuation isn't that. That just means they're leaving to reconstitute for a strike somewhere else, a probably much more lethal strike by the British, that is. So that's what I want you to think about, is the one big game. Washington knows for us to get from here, which is where we are, over to here, which is winning that last one big game, this in-between stretch is going to have clearly a degree of resiliency and endurance, and fill in your words that mean those two things times 20. That's going to have to get us from here to here. There'll be a surrender or two along the way, the kinds of victories we all understand. But there's going to have to be an awful lot of things we absolutely do not understand. And that is that resilience, that endurance, that persistence, that just utter, gut-level, heart-reaching amount of refusal to quit. We're going to have all that. Where will that come from? I'm not sure it's only going to come from things like having enough cannon dragged in. How many more times will we be able to rely on that kind of miracle? So that's what I want you to take away in our final episode for this season, which is that last one big game. For Washington, it sure looks a lot different than it does for the Seattle Seahawks in this Super Bowl win. And he knows that there's going to have to be a lot of things that he doesn't understand that'll have to be part of going from here to here. I'm Dan Miller. Now, I'm thinking I'll do this again next season. Or now it's this coming season. So, you can look for me 1 week before the start of the NFL regular season. And we'll pick up head coach George Washington at that point with the Continentals, which probably puts us, around September 1st. So look for me then as we come back for the NFL at America 250-251. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. And I invite you to come over and hang out with my other podcast on the 250 River with Dr. Dan, where we summarize a week, this past week from 250 years ago. And of course, as always, you're more than welcome to read my weekly written series, Americanism Redux, America 250 years ago this week. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. And one last congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks. Bye-bye.